Aloha mamas and welcome to the CoronaMama Zoom Room. This show is brought to you by the Maui Mama magazine. And we are here for you, the Maui Mama, to help you to connect and express and share all those things that are on our minds during this pandemic time. Our motto is hashtag share aloha, not corona. I'm Angeline Chu Longshore, and today is part 2 about remote learning. We're all in it. We're all so in it. And I was listening to a podcast called The Mom Hour, which is really a fun podcast. And they were saying, it's really a lot. We're going through so much and everything is so a lot. It's like a lot, right? We're all feeling that because this is going on and on and on. But not only is it going on and on, things are changing like so fast all the time. And so we're just inundated with these changes. And there's so much mental energy that's being expended on wrapping our minds around how to wrestle and deal with all these changes, how to keep our family safe, what to do, what not to do, with all these things. And we're in the holidays now, right? So that in itself is usually a really stressful time. But now we've got a pandemic and remote learning. And what's happened around the country is, I'm sure you know, schools are being shut down in person, like everywhere in big cities and even on Oahu. So we are so lucky we live Maui, right? Hashtag, because we have few cases here. Although, you know what? It's creeping up. So we really have to be aware that things can creep and then spread really fast. So, I don't know what you're doing for Thanksgiving, but, I have some statistics to tell you about. So this year, there are 1.6 million fewer moms working than normally would be. Okay, 1.6 million fewer working than normally would be. And that's due to school closures, according to the New York Times employment analysis data. And 1/3 of working moms, 25 to 44 years old, who are unemployed, say it's because of childcare demands. So that goes along with our remote learning theme here is, we are the ones who take care of the kids, and it falls on us because compared to 12% of unemployed men, those are the ones who are unemployed for the same reason, because they have to deal with childcare. So, this is what is happening for moms. A national survey also shows that 8 in 10 mothers say that they manage remote learning for their families, and that's the major reason why they can't work. And so the survey is like underscoring that we as moms are more likely to make these professional sacrifices than the dads. And, that's just society, that's just culture, and then here's another interesting thing. It just speaks for the culture too, is that men are more likely to have a separate office. If they are working from home, they have a separate office, and women tend to be working at the kitchen table where they can be interrupted at any time by anyone asking them to make them a snack or something, right? So, some of these women are doing full-time, heavy-duty jobs from the kitchen table, and they're still, people feel like they can interrupt mom, right? That's just how it is. But dad, no, he gets his own special office. And I'm not saying that he shouldn't. I think that's awesome. But mom should too, right? So anyway, we really don't think about the things that we're going through. And I just wanted to say that we don't even think about what's happening in other countries, because in other countries, mothers have it a little bit different. Some of those, there's like a social safety net where there's programs to help parents out, to help people out during these kinds of times, and to help with childcare and to help with insurance and medical insurance and all kinds of things. And here we don't have those programs. So in this country, there are many more inequities for low-income families, minority women, and single moms. So if you're one of those, then, it's more than a lot. We're saying it's a lot, it's more than a lot. So I don't even know if you have time to watch this show or listen to this show if you're listening to the podcast, but I just want to acknowledge that it is a lot for all of us and then some. So we have, I don't want to be a downer, but I just have to acknowledge these things. We've hit this crazy number now of 250,000 deaths, 250,000 deaths in our country. And that is roughly 1 in 100 Americans are contagious at this moment. So that's not, okay, there's the deaths and then there's the contagious infectious people. So 1 in 100 are contagious at this moment. So there are a lot of people all around, luckily not so much here on Maui, but it seems in a lot of places in this country who are infected, dying, and it's not getting better yet. That's the optimal word, yet. So that's why we're here on the CoronaMama show, is because, I don't want to complain about things or make this a downer, but it's like, I just want to give perspective on where we are and that what we're feeling is warranted, right? Because this is a whole worldwide situation. It's a countrywide situation and community situation that we're feeling a lot. A lot of us have families on the mainland or in other places where there's a lot happening. So we worry, we fear for them too. And, so this is a place where I just want you to know that you're not alone. You're here hearing all the things that are going on for everyone else too. And what you're feeling is completely warranted. I'm not saying it's good. I'm not saying that we're happy or that it's okay. It's not okay. It's just, we are all feeling it. And I want to let you know that if you didn't know, not that you don't know. Okay. So let's see. Our numbers are inching up on this island. And I want to say that, we could give into that pandemic fatigue right now, which we probably want to, right? We're probably like, I just really need to be with my family during Thanksgiving or hang with my friends or whatever it is. If you form these little bubbles, that's excellent. That works really well. And you guys can all be safe and make sure that you test if you're going out to other areas. I mean, all this. I don't even know why I'm saying it, but it's just that we're coming up on Thanksgiving. And what the surveys have showed nationwide is that 40% of people plan on going to large gatherings. 40%, that's like just under half of people in this country. So I know there's this pandemic fatigue. We really need that emotional bond, that connection with people that we love. I get it. But, we could just hold off for a little longer. Supposedly a vaccine or a treatment or something is around the corner. And if we don't, it's just been shown that more people are going to get sick and die. So just saying, I'm not saying that you have to do anything. I'm just putting out this info so you can make your own decision. I'm not telling you what to do. Just, think about that. Okay. But there are also many wonderful things happening in the world, in our community. And that is always highlighting these actions of aloha. So there's so many that I'm not just going to highlight one today because it's the holiday season. And what comes with the stress of the holiday season is also beautiful, kind gestures, people thinking of other people, gifting, sharing, volunteering, giving of their heart, giving of their time. And one thing that I just think is so awesome, we all know the singer and actress Dolly Parton, the 9 to 5 song, right? And she's done many other songs too. Well, she gave $1 million toward coronavirus research. And that's just out of her own goodness, her own pocket. And that went to help the Moderna vaccine program. That's a certain company that's making a vaccine program. So she chose to fund that. But it's just seeing that somebody is just trying to do something good here, just a single person. with a lot of money, but a single person. And then here's something really sweet. While there's these sixth graders in Colorado, Aspen, Colorado, they made a little newsletter during their quarantine, a little newspaper. They wrote out tips on how to be productive during quarantine, offering testimonials from their weeks at home, and they gave advice on how to draw a bird just for something to do. So 11-year-old Theo said, or wrote to readers, start by slightly sketching out a simple shape like this. And then he went on to, finish out how to draw the full bird. So I just think, there's so many people who, even if you're a child and a group of children, you can do things that affect other people in your community and help them out during this time when, I don't know, there's just a lot, right? So much going on. And then also, just in time for Thanksgiving, Maui Hub, where they offer farm fresh food from our community, they are giving a 50% discount to those who have EBT and SNAP. So if you go to mauihub.org, you can order what you want from their website, and it is delivered to certain locations. Well, you get 50% off, a discount from anything that's on there. Well, I think it's the food, the fresh food. But anyway, check that out because I know for Thanksgiving you could use the help, and we want you to have a wonderful Thanksgiving. Okay, and Maui County, also the County of Maui, sent 6,000 people vouchers for free turkeys. It's just so awesome. I know we have all that doom and gloom in the beginning of the show that I talked about, but there are really beautiful silver linings too. Okay, and here's something new. I want to let the busy mama know. If you would rather listen to this show as an audio podcast, you'll be able to do that soon. I'm launching the Discovery Mode podcast on Spotify and iTunes, which will run this CoronaMama series of shows, as well as other live and recorded shows that I produce, all wrapped up into one place. So for me, being in Discovery Mode means approaching life with discovery and an exploration mindset as we help to navigate our families in this life a little bit better by what we learn. And now for our Zoom chat, we are going to be continuing on with remote learning because, if we look at the situation, we might go back to remote learning 100% if things get worse. Now, I cross my fingers, hope we don't, but, we don't know during this pandemic time. So with that, we're going to bring back Dr. Nicole Beurkens, who's a holistic child psychologist. We spoke to her weeks ago, and I saved this little part knowing that we would do a little bit more on remote learning. But what do you think would be helpful for parents in online learning, distance learning, and where we are now in this pandemic with how we're doing school and moving forward? I don't know if that's too much for you to talk about.
No, I think what this gives us an opportunity to do is be more aware and intentional about what works or doesn't work for our child in terms of learning and what's actually going to be most helpful for them. Very often, families just go with the flow of what is the norm in their community or area. Sending their child to the local public school. It's just like, oh, well, or to the private school that they went to. And it's kind of like, well, this is what we do. And we're not necessarily individualized or thoughtful about each child and what's going to be helpful for them. And I think that this situation gives us the opportunity to look at that and to say, okay, here's what we were doing. What was great or not great about that? Now this is what we're doing with, hybrid or online or pods or whatever, what's working or not working for each child in the family around that. And when we become aware of that, it may be different for different kids. I have 4 children, and we have made decisions 1 year at a time for each of them that have been very different. My 2 oldest went to a certain middle school and high school. It was a great fit for them. My youngest son goes to a completely different middle school and high school because he had different needs, different interests, different strengths and challenges. And my daughter goes to a completely different program. And at various times they were homeschooled or did an online school or went to a public or a private school. Really, we've been committed to individually year by year looking at what is going to best serve each of them, both right now, but also for the future. And so I think this pandemic gives the opportunity for families who haven't really thought about that to just be aware of that and to say what works or doesn't work for this child. Maybe you look at that and you go, wow, the regular public school in-seat environment is absolutely the best place for this particular child. Great. Then when that becomes an option again, you can feel really clear, having tried this other way, about sending them back. But if you notice like, wow, this child is actually blooming. Like I'm seeing things that I wasn't when they were in, their public or private in-person school, or wow, there's some real benefits to this here, or this is working really well. I think that allows us then to be intentional about what is going to be best for our kids. And the reality is, pandemic or no pandemic, we have more choices than ever before around schooling because of the internet and because of charter schools and because of recent, legislation and things. We've got choices. And so just to be aware of that and to say, what is going to work best? What have we learned from this? And how do we want to do that moving forward? I think the more intentional we can be about that, the better off our kids are.
Mm-hmm. Because you've been a teacher and you're also a child psychologist, seeing what's been happening during this pandemic with distance learning and blended learning, do you have any thoughts of how we can best navigate this, since the pandemic is going on? It's just going on. So what can we do?
I think recognizing that formal academic instruction is only one small part of what it means to be learning. So definitely take advantage of whatever the school is doing online or with their materials or those kinds of things, but also recognize that all the other kinds of learning in life are equally as valuable, sometimes more valuable. So making sure that kids are having opportunities for developing life skills, for playing, for, moving and, doing physical activity, all of those things are really important. The academics are just one piece of it. And that piece, this isn't going to go on forever, although it's feeling like it at this point. At some point, we are going to go back to sort of more of our normally scheduled programming. Kids will catch up with that. They will. So, if the formal academic stuff is creating a real burden, a real sense of stress or overwhelm or whatever it might be that is negatively impacting your child or your family, pick the pieces that work for you, let go of the rest, and know that that will be okay. Because letting go of that to focus on what you can do well and what is going to be conducive to your child's learning, but their emotional health, their relational health, their physical health, that's going to get them a lot farther than trying to force them into this box that clearly is not working for them. So I think just to feel the freedom that you can be flexible and that each child is different, and that you can and should focus on what's going to work for them and not try to force something that just may not be workable for them, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm. And for those parents with students who are sort of building a resume to go into college, there's a lot of pressure, a lot of stress of what do we do now? And we want to look good, for the colleges. What can we do in this time that we're in this odd time? What can they do?
Yeah, I think, first recognize everybody's in the same boat. Your child's not going to look any worse for having fewer activities or opportunities than any other kid their same age, because worldwide everybody's dealing with this. So I think just to realize that no kid is out there right now building a strong resume of extracurriculars and volunteering and all these things, because guess what? Nobody's able to do it. So they're not going to be at a disadvantage relative to their peers. I think there are going to be some interesting college essay questions and things that colleges are going to be looking at around what did you do during this pandemic time? What did you discover about yourself? What new interests or hobbies or learnings did you develop? What did you learn about yourself as a student? I think that's going to be more the trend in what schools are going to be looking at. So I think that idea of helping kids to embrace what is and making the best of this time, exploring new things, working on developing some coping skills, I think that's actually what's going to make them stand apart and look attractive to places, which is a different way of thinking about it. But even with many of my colleagues who are in that post-secondary environment, that's the kind of stuff that they're looking at is, how did you use this time? What did you learn? What did you discover? And kids will have lots of stories to tell about that. So again, I think just being attuned to what they're learning about themselves, how they can use the time for new interests, how they're learning to take care of themselves, to be aware of their emotions, develop coping. I think all of those things are going to be really relevant, and schools are going to want to hear about that.
Mm. It seems like even though we feel like we're suffering, maybe we're actually being given a gift of this pandemic time. There's just the silver linings, if we can see it as that. And do you have any thoughts of what that might be for parents if it's not obvious? Because I think sometimes a shift of seeing somebody else's perspective can help people to go, oh, okay, there are some good things.
Yeah. I think there are a lot of silver linings, and certainly I do not want to minimize for one moment the very real, tangible struggles that some families are dealing with. Significant financial issues, job loss, loss of family members, even from the pandemic. I always hesitate a little bit with this to talk about the silver linings, which are important, because I don't want to minimize the real pain that some people are going through. But there are silver linings and benefits that come from any challenge. There's even a term that we use in psychology called post-traumatic growth, which is around even for people who experience significant trauma in their life. There is growth that can happen on the other side of that. So the silver linings are the opportunities for growth here. The amazing opportunity that our kids are getting for building resilience, for learning how to cope with things like disappointment and change and, feeling overwhelmed or uncertain all the time. Those are some real benefits. The benefits for our families of slowing down, of spending more time together, of being more attuned with ourselves and with one another. Those are all tremendous benefits that are coming out of this. And it doesn't mean that the challenges aren't there, but it does mean that there are also at the same time opportunities that really can help us and our kids as we move forward. And that's a good thing to remember.
As a child psychologist and your background as a teacher, is there anything that you can add to what we've talked about in helping parents to get through this time? You were saying there's a lot of stress, strife, financial stuff. I mean, it's very big. So I may not know everybody's situation, but you see so many people and you hear about so many people. Is there anything you can tell me?
I think just to remember that you don't need to be perfect with all of this with your kids. You don't need to have the perfect way to, have them do their assignments. You don't need to have the perfect activities set up or, talk to them in a way that's supportive all the time. We all screw up. And especially when we are under tremendous pressure and stress. So to give ourselves grace for that first, to go, okay, these are abnormal times and my responses are pretty normal. But then to look at what would feel better to me about how to handle this, and starting with yourself and saying, what's one way I can take better care of myself so that I can take better care of my family, even in the midst of tremendous stressors or difficulties that some families are dealing with. To say, how can I support myself even in small ways so that I can get myself through this, and then also be able to get my children through this, and asking for help. If you're able to access sources of support, maybe not tangible support at home, but reach out to your local moms group or community or family members. you do not need to do this all yourself. And especially if you are a single parent right now, trying to manage your kids at home with school and work from home and all of that, you can't do all of that and you can't do all of it well. So you either find things that you're willing to say, I'm not going to expect myself to do those things or to do them well, and let yourself off the hook that way to support yourself to get through this, or you reach out and you access your community and supports to help you. No one can do all of this themselves. And I think that's a really important thing for people to take from this as well. We need our community.
Definitely. Are there any resources that you might point parents toward?
Well, I think the resource that you've got for moms and families is an example of a tremendous one in your local community and area. That looking for parents to look for things like that is great. Those are people, if you don't have family nearby, those are great. There's also lots of wonderful organizations online that have cropped up doing more support around pandemic specific kinds of things. And so I think even just doing some Google searches in your local area, if there's a particular challenge that you're having, almost anywhere that you might live, you can find something even online that could fit with that specific need. So to just be willing to say, I can't do it all, I need some help, and then start to access what might be available.
Okay, thank you. This is so great. Well, tell
Go
people
ahead.
where they can find more about you and any resources from your website.
Yeah, so my website that people can go to is drbeurkens.com, DRBEURKENS.com. There's a 7-day free challenge they can take on there, which really gets into this each day, choosing from a menu of simple, tiny little changes that you can make. I've also got tons of articles and videos and all kinds of resources on there available for families. My book, Life Will Get Better, is a book for parents. Simple solutions to attention, anxiety, mood, and behavior challenges. So if you're a parent, which pretty much all of us deal with those things at various times, you may find the book really helpful. And again, a lot of the areas that you and I have touched on today are focused on more in depth. It's a very practical, strategy-oriented book. So people may find that to be a helpful fit for them right now. And then also I'm on Instagram and Facebook are the two primary social media platforms that I'm on. And I love engaging with people there. So come find me, join my community. I'm so happy to be connected to all of you.
Okay, so I love what Dr. Nicole said about not trying to do this all by yourself. We can reach out to people. We don't always feel like we can because we're such a society of like independent women. We can do it on our own. But you know what? This is a time when we really need to reach out. We're all feeling it. We're all feeling stressed. It's okay. And there are so many people in our community who are so willing to help. I look in the Maui Mommies Facebook groups, and there are people that, if one mom asks for something, there are answers. There's resources that all these wonderful, kind moms come to that place, and they spend their time typing in answers because they just know that we need each other. We do. So that is really awesome. I wanted to mention that here are some of the groups of the resources you can go to that are local. So there's the Maui Mommies group on Facebook. There's the Maui Mommies support group. There's just type in Maui Mommies or Maui Moms. I know there's a Maui Mom support group also. You'll come up with a lot of stuff, but the Maui Mommies group is run by Jalen Hansen, and she has built such an incredible community. There's also this page, the Maui Mama magazine, where there's so many resources that Kate Griffiths puts out, and the actual magazine, which you'll find in stores all over the island. So there's lots of resources there. The Hawaii Distance Learning Ohana is another one. That's Hawaii-wide. The Distance Learning Support Group, the Maui Distance Learning Support Group is there too. Samantha, I've talked with her and she's awesome. The Distance Learning Coaches Hawaii, where they actually will connect you with a learning coach. So I think they've just been around for a short time, and they're asking for parents to join because they feel like they're a resource, but nobody knows about us. So I said, I'll tell some people about you guys. And then, of course, as we mentioned, the YMCA, the Maui Family YMCA, has affordable childcare and a distance learning center all day for you working parents to bring your child there all day. And it's only $20 a week because of the CARES Act is funding it. Thank you, Maui County and the mayor's office for that. And Mike Morris and all you, Brian, and all of you at the YMCA for making that happen, because I know that's helping out a lot of families. And then I mentioned last week that there are resources for teachers through the Learning Heroes organization, who I had on the Zoom chat last week. And they have a deep website full of resources because they've been in the education sphere researching and providing resources for years. So teachers, that's there for you. It's bealearninghero.org. Okay. And then there's also a podcast that I talked about, Truth for Teachers podcast, really awesome. And then there's the book called The Distance Learning Playbook, K through 12, Teaching for Engagement in any Setting. So I will link those in the show notes below. If you're a parent who is trying to figure out homeschooling, here's a quick, easy, affordable way to start. Homeschooling Explained is a Maui Moms program that was an in-person workshop turned into a simple online course for parents. So grab the CoronaMama discount code CHEW20. I also know that, a few weeks in a row, I've been showing restaurants that are open. So this week we're going to look at some restaurants that are open on the west side. Now, sometimes, this is not always a comprehensive list because things open, things close. It's not always easy to tell what is open, but these I believe are open. So I'm going to leave you with those images, and I hope that you have a great week. Take care, stay safe, and be well. Aloha.